Good evening. It is now 6:50, and I'm going to call to order the regular meeting of the Victoria City Council. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item on the agenda tonight is announcements. The City Council will hold a workshop on Monday, March 13th at 5:30 p.m. to interview for open positions for the Planning Commission, Senior Advisory Committee, and Parks and Recreation Committee. Applications are available on the city's website or by calling City Hall. The regular council meeting scheduled for March 27th has been rescheduled to Monday, March 20th at 6:30 p.m. The council will also hold a workshop on Monday, March 20th at 5 p.m. to review a sketch plan for a proposed development downtown by Monarch LLC. Additionally, on Monday, March 20th at 5:45 p.m., the city will host a training on open meeting law and data practices for council members, planning commissioners, and members of the Senior Advisory Committee and the Park and Recreation Committee. All meetings of the City Council are open to the public and held in the council chambers at City Hall unless otherwise noted. We encourage anyone wanting to attend the council meetings or workshops in person to contact our city clerk in advance. The city will be hosting a citizens focus group for our Downtown West project from 5 to 6:30 p.m. on Monday, February 13th in the council chambers. Due to space constraints and the interactive style approach to the focus group, registration is there is a capacity, and so you are requested to contact City Hall to be placed on the waiting list. Registration is now open for our annual Citizens Academy. Backed by popular demand, this will be the 4th year the city is offering the program. Participants get an inside look on how the city operates during this interactive 5-week program. It's an awesome program, and we hope you register to attend. Our next, there is one proclamation this evening, which I will read from the dais. Proclamation 2023-01, a proclamation honoring African American History Month, February 2023. Whereas, since the bicentennial year of 1976, Americans of all walks of life have come together during the month of February to honor African Americans in every area of endeavor throughout our history. And whereas the observance of African American History Month calls our attention to the continued need to battle racism and build a society that lives up to its democratic ideals. And whereas the City of Victoria prides itself in being a welcoming community where all citizens, past, present, and future, are respected and recognized for their contributions to our community, the state, the country, and the world. And whereas the City of Victoria celebrates our community's diversity and welcome all people who live, work, and go to school here, regardless of their national origin, color, race, sexual orientation or gender identity, financial or socioeconomic status, or political opinion. And whereas Council holds the intention to listen, to learn, and to keep an open mind when engaging with members of our community, business leaders, and community partners. And now, therefore, we, Mayor and Council members of the City of Victoria, do hereby proclaim February 2023 as African American History Month. The City of Victoria urges all Victoria residents to unite in making this period of dedication to the principles of justice and equality for all people. Our next order of business is to adopt the final agenda. Council, can I get a motion to adopt the final agenda?
I'll make a motion to adopt the final agenda.
We have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on to our next item, which is open forum. This is the opportunity for anyone to address the council on an item that is not on the agenda and not in application form that will be coming to the council at a future date. We have Miss Katie Schaumann from Schaumann, correct? Yes. From Southern Valley Alliance, registered to speak in advance. Miss Schaumann, welcome. Please come to the podium. State your name and address for the record, please, and proceed.
Yes. My name is Katie Schaumann.
My address is 1185 Farmers Lane. That is Belle Plaine, Minnesota 56011. I am here representing Southern Valley Alliance. We are a nonprofit organization that provides all of the domestic violence services for Carver and Scott counties. So thank you all so much for allowing me just a few moments of your time during your very busy evening. I really appreciate it. I'm here to share a little bit more about our organization, what we've done over the past year, and then give you a really exciting update on what we're doing this coming year. So as an organization, we are a prevention and solution-focused organization that focuses on partnering with other community agencies and businesses to make the communities of Carver and Scott counties a better, safer place to live. Last year, Southern Valley Alliance celebrated our 40th anniversary serving the communities of Carver and Scott counties. And through those last 40 years, we've had the opportunity to assist over 23,000 individuals as they tried to lead healthy, violence-free lives. We'd like to think that abuse doesn't happen in our own backyard, but the truth is that abuse happens anywhere, everywhere, anytime. And that's what our organization is here for, to help support those experiencing abuse, raise awareness, and hopefully prevent it from happening in our community in the future. Some really surprising statistics that are coming out: 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men will experience abuse in their lifetime in the United States. Another really shocking statistic is that 1 in 3 individuals under the age of 18 has been purposely harmed by somebody that they're in a romantic relationship with. We want to eradicate these numbers. We want to work to put ourselves out of a job. That's the hope, that's the goal. But we can only do that by working with the community that we serve. In our last fiscal year, we were able to service 945 individuals within Carver and Scott counties. We answered over 1,800 crisis line calls and launched 2 brand new programs within our community. We began hospital advocacy at St. Francis Hospital in Shakopee. Hopefully we'll get that on the ground and rolling in Ridgeview as well. And we also began the lethality assessment program with all 10 law enforcement agencies within Carver and Scott counties. This helps us be able to get connected to survivors in a much quicker, faster way, and also have offender accountability on the legal side. Additionally, we were able to provide trainings and presentations to over 2,700 individuals within our community last year. Even through the pandemic, as we're coming out of this pandemic, there are many opportunities for all of us as individuals to learn and grow. So it's really amazing that we had so many people come out to all of these training opportunities that we held as an organization. In the community of Victoria alone, we've assisted 259 survivors since our founding in 1982. So this truly does happen in our own backyard. We have many great resources and services that we provide our community and your community as well. We operate a 24-hour free and confidential crisis line. This is available for anyone in the community, whether you're experiencing abuse, maybe questioning unhealthy aspects of your relationship, or a concerned family member or friend seeking help, seeking advice, and asking those tough questions. We provide crisis intervention, court advocacy, safe housing partnerships. Unfortunately, there is no shelter in Carver or Scott County, so we can kind of bridge that gap by providing hotel stays. Support groups, and then lastly, community engagement, which is a huge part of my role. So going out into the community, every festival, fair, even partnering with the City of Victoria for Night to Unite last year. Thank you so much for your support. The donations that we gathered of gift cards and personal care products through your city really was able to make a huge impact on those we serve. So thank you for all that you do to support us as well. I just want to announce and share with you, I'm sure you might have heard, we are moving our office, which is super exciting. Our office is currently located in Belle Plaine, and we are moving to Shakopee this year, which is really exciting. We are going to be centralized between the 2 counties that we serve of Carver and Scott counties, and our office location is going to be across the street from the Government Center in Shakopee. So this new location will open so many doors for our organization to be able to serve the community better and have more accessibility for those that we serve. We currently don't have public transportation in Belle Plaine. It's very tricky to get individuals to our office. Our walk-in traffic is pretty low, so we service a lot of people over the phone. Being in a centralized location, we do anticipate that our walk-in traffic is going to definitely increase, especially being across the street from the courthouse, and only a 10-minute drive for Carver County Court, which is going to significantly save time for our advocates, which is really exciting as well. And then being closer to all of our community partners that are centralized within Chaska and Shakopee too. So just super exciting things happening for our organization, many doors opening. And we just wanted to come and say thank you for all the support that you have continued to give us over the last 40 years, and excited for what the next 40 will bring. Hopefully that we can make a huge difference and huge impact in our community for survivors. So thank you for what you do. Thank you for the opportunity tonight, and I would love to answer any questions. Hopefully, if I don't know them, I'll get an answer back to you as soon as I can, but thank you.
Thank you to you for all the good work that you do, and congratulations on moving your office. That'll be a wonderful thing for that organization. Council, any questions for Ms. Schaumann? Seeing none? Oh, go ahead.
Question.
Yeah.
Councilmember Ivansky.
Yes, do you have volunteer opportunities?
So many volunteer opportunities for all ages. So it can be one individual or a group of people, any age. We have opportunities in our office location. We have opportunities that you can do from home as well. And especially with our move coming up, we're gonna need volunteer help packing and moving and painting and getting our office space ready. So many, many different ways to get involved.
So what would be the best ways for somebody to reach out? And
Best way to get involved and to reach out would be going to our website, which is svamn.org, or following us on social media. We share everything online as well.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Councilmember Ivansky, great point. Anything else? Thank you very much, Ms. Schaumann.
Thank you.
All right, is there anyone else in the audience that is here to address council this evening? Seeing no one, we will move on to our consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are routine, administrative, and do not require deliberation, or housekeeping items that are required by law. Consent agenda items are approved with one vote unless someone requests an item to be considered separately. Ms. Hardy, does staff wish to pull any consent agenda items for separate discussion and vote?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, staff would like to remove item 5.5, approve temporary liquor license for the Victoria Lions Club for an event on March 10th, 2023.
Perfect. We will have pulled that, and we will consider that on the regular agenda. Council, any items for council that would like to be pulled from the consent agenda? Anybody in the audience interested in pulling an item from the consent agenda? With that, then I would take a vote to, let me back up a minute. Ms. Edisvold, please let the record reflect that 5.5 has been pulled for further discussion. And then council. That having been said, I will take a motion for the balance of the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the balance of the consent agenda.
We have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now on to item 5.5, which was removed from the consent agenda item. Ms. Hardy, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. This should be a pretty straightforward, brief item for you all. The liquor license date that was originally given to us was March 10th. That date was incorrect. Unfortunately, we did not receive the correct date until after the packet was published. So assuming that you're going to approve this temporary liquor license, when you do make the approval, the new date is March 31st, 2023. So your motion should include and note the new date, Friday, March 31st, 2023. There are no other changes to this item.
Perfect. Thank you. Council, questions? All right. With that, I will entertain a motion.
Motion.
We have a motion to approve the liquor license with the date change of March 31st, 2023. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now on to our regular agenda. Item 6.1, thank you very much for patiently waiting. These are our appointments to the Planning Commission alternate positions. Ms. Hardy, would you like to give a brief overview before council discussion, please?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. So during our workshop, which just preceded this meeting here this evening, we had 3 applicants interviewed by the council for 2 open Planning Commission alternate appointments. This evening, I think, Mayor, you and council, you all deferred your discussion and deliberation to the regular agenda here this evening. So As you did not have an opportunity to discuss during your workshop and reach some consensus around the appointments, this would be your opportunity to have that discussion and then finally make the appointments here this evening.
All right, thank you very much, council. We have 3 excellent candidates to fill our alternate positions on the Planning Commission. I will now open the floor for discussion.
Mayor,
Yeah, Councilmember Roberts.
so I think it's great that we have 3 people who stepped forward to volunteer for this position. Currently we have 1 spot open on the regular Planning Commission with Councilmember Ivansky moving to the council. My thought is, with that 1 position, we'll have another one with Laura Moore's term up in April. Why not appoint all 3 of them to alternates, and then they have the opportunity to move, if they want, if they say, I'm done with this, they can be done. But then they get their feet wet and, now we have 2, if one moves into a position, we still have 2 alternates after this.
Councilmember, I like your thinking on this. Additional discussion on this. Council, any concerns over appointing all 3 as alternates? And maybe before we have that conversation, I should direct a question to Ms. Hardy to find out if that is possible to do.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council, Councilmember Roberts. And yes, that is certainly something that you could do. The number of alternates on the Planning Commission is set by policy. That policy is set by council, so there aren't any statutory or otherwise restrictions related to that. So if council were to make the appointment for and appoint all 3 candidates tonight, I would recommend that your motion also include a direction to staff to modify your policy, because your policy is very specific with the makeup of the Planning Commission.
Terrific. And I see Attorney Vos nodding along in agreement. Is there anything additional from the attorney?
No, just Mayor and Council, your manager wisely anticipated that potential, and we briefly chatted about it during your work session. I agree with everything she just said, so.
All right, perfect. All right, council.
If we're specific in our writing on this particular wording for our alternates, is it possible, or would the council think it beneficial that we keep the alternate 1, alternate 2, but open up alternate 3 as a specific student-related alternate or student-related Planning Commission member? Meaning that Mr. Hummel decides that he's going off to college somewhere far away out of the state and no longer able to do it, we're able to bring in a student that wants to, and we have it open so that students can take advantage. I think for us, getting people interested in this age is great, and I don't want to turn anyone away that is interested. And it takes a lot of courage, as we all know, to sit behind that desk and answer questions, especially at 18. So I think a specific student-related position would be in order, but I'm just one person, so I want to make sure what consensus is.
Councilmember Gunderson, I love that idea.
I like that idea as well. I think it's a great idea. So I second that idea.
Is there,
I'm sorry.
actually, there's probably, I think that's a great idea. We'll add a 3rd alternate and go from there. Councilmember Ivansky, any thoughts from you?
I think it's acceptable to have things move to 3 as long as we communicate that we have to amend policy to do so. But I'm in favor of having all 3. I'm not necessarily comfortable with, bracketing Mr. Hummel into a student role. I think that if he has the capability, the qualifications, and has the demeanor and the personality that meshes, he deserves an equal shot to be appointed to a role and contribute to the welfare of the city. So I would be supportive of moving it to 3, and then we can have the discussions later about, is that the right structure?
I guess I was, just to clarify your point, I guess, after what you just said is, you're not necessarily saying, right, like, we could look for, right, like, when you're saying a student role, and he would have the same. Yeah, right, it's mainly just like, in the future, like you said, if you go to college and you're not able to do it, maybe we reach out to Chanhassen High School or, Chaska High School and see if there's another Victoria student. And if there's not, then we can appoint.
Yeah, it's
adult.
just a
Yeah.
foot in the door for other
Yeah.
students to follow in the footsteps.
Yeah, no, I like,
And
yeah.
make sure that we have it in policy that
Yep.
one of our alternates should be a student.
Yep.
And move, and have all, and not taking anything away from the position by any means.
Yep.
Just, if we, have interested students, we have an opening there, so we don't have to go back and
Yeah.
rewrite it.
Yep.
Plus, we want to encourage the future generations to
Yes.
take a look at a role in local government. It's a great career. All right, I think we are in agreement here. We do have a consensus. Ms. Hardy, yes.
I was just going to ask clarification on where the consensus fell.
Oh, do we have consensus that we want to reserve a student position or encourage a student position?
I think encourage, and if you can't find someone, then
Fill it,
maybe fill it.
so then,
Can we write language to that effect? I'm seeing nods from both ends. All right, terrific. With that, council, let's have a motion. Councilmember Roberts, you want to take a crack at that?
So let's see here. Appoint, Jacob Westman, Kyle Umel, and Al Rackus, sorry, as alternate 1, alternate 2, and alternate 3 positions. Also instructing staff to change our policy from 2 to 3 alternate positions on the Planning Commission, while the intent to reach out finding the 3rd position as a student. Sorry, that wasn't very eloquent, but
Ms. Hardy, anything to add to that? You got that? Oh, yeah.
I
Councilmember
believe
Rob-
we have to,
Yes.
we have to appoint them in a particular order, which we haven't talked about yet.
Oh,
Because they're being called up in order, if first alternate, that's why it's if planning commission is gone, first alternate is called up. That alternate is not there, second alternate is called up, and then where we're at. In this particular instance, that's why I was leaving open the student option to always have him be a part of it. And I have my thinking, I have an order, not to lose anyone, so just to kind of
sure.
follow along with where we're at. And to where we have, you said at the beginning, we've got 3 great people up here willing to be a part of the community and help drive its decisions and planning, and it goes, and I loved what I heard. My order would be appoint Mr. Macias, Mr. Westman as alternates 1 and 2, and Mr. Umel as our alternate 3/student alternate.
Okay.
And that's my initial thoughts based on what I heard.
I'm in agreement with that. Council, is there consensus to do that?
I don't have consensus. I would have Mr. Westman be alternate 1, and then Mr. Umel alternate 2, and then we have a 3rd
All right,
alternate, which would be Mr. Riches.
all right. We've got a couple of options here. So, Mr. Rife, or Councilmember Rife, Councilmember Roberts?
My,
Yeah, Councilmember Rife, please.
my order was, and I apologize if I don't say your names exactly right, Mr. Macias, number 1, Mr. Westman, number 2, and Mr. Umel, number 3.
Okay, so you are with, and that's what I said, and that's what Councilmember Gunderson said.
let's move.
There we go. There we go. Now we do have consensus. All right.
Can I get that order again, please?
Yes. Councilmember, Mr. Macias, alternate 1, Mr. Westman, alternate 2, and Mr. Umel, alternate 3. All right, we have a motion to appoint those alternates in that order, amend our ordinance to, our policy to read that. We have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, gentlemen. Thank you so much for stepping forward. We appreciate it. The next item on the agenda is item 6.2, which is approving a resolution authorizing the preparation of a feasibility study, approving plans and specifications, and ordering the advertisement for bids on Downtown West Phase 1 Public Infrastructure Project. Presenting this evening is City Engineer Kara Guerin. Ms. Guerin, please, welcome back.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. I'm gonna slow down a little bit since we do have 2 new members to the City Council, just to touch base on a couple of items. But from a high-level perspective, the project we're talking about here tonight is the Downtown West Phase 1 improvements. This is really the next phase of a project, overall broader project that has been ongoing for quite some time in support of development of the 13.5 acres. So we're just kind of moving through the next step of that. But just to highlight the area that's included in the proposed improvement project is completion of the reconstruction of Steiger Lake Lane up to where it ties into Highway 5, and then extension of Steiger Lake Lane into the 13.5 acres, constructing the proposed parking area and loop road along the central green, building the associated stormwater management features that are required to serve both the new impervious surface that is being constructed as well as the Marco McLean building. The project also includes extension of sanitary sewer and water main within the road, and then construction of our downtown streetscape amenity package, so the same package that exists in the existing downtown for lighting and landscaping and sidewalk layout that was approved with the Steiger Lake Lane Phase 1 project that will be occurring yet next summer, will be extended into this area. So I'm going to highlight something on this schedule and then come back to it. But just to note where you are in the process tonight, what you're being asked to do is order the preparation of a feasibility study and also approving plans and specifications and ordering the advertisement for bids. These are council-required procedural steps that need to be taken associated with a public improvement project such as this. So you really are authorizing moving forward with 2 particular steps in the process. I'll come back to the rest of the schedule after I talk about these 2 first of all. In terms of the plans and specifications, so for the city to complete a public improvement project, the city hired a consulting engineer by the name of Kimley Horn to prepare detailed plans and specifications for bidding purposes. So this particular plan set is 80 pages and includes all of the engineering information that's necessary to create an opportunity for bidders to prepare particular bids on the proposed improvements. So the council does need to approve those plans and specifications. They are prepared consistent with city standards that are approved as part of your annual policy approval that goes in place. And myself, as your city engineer, reviews all of the materials that are prepared by our consulting firms to make sure that they're completed consistent with city standards. So things that would be included on that, as an example, would be making sure that the proposed pavement section is constructed to city standard, or that the hydrants that are included match what all the other hydrants in the city look like. So it's a very detailed set of documents that bidders review and prepare a bid that then is submitted to the city. So you're being asked to approve that based on my recommendation that you approve it. You aren't expected to review the 80-page document in detail. So just wanted to note that. The second part of this project is as part of the development agreement that was approved with Marco McLean, the developer agreed to be assessed for a portion of these improvements. So I think it's about city manager is not at her post, it's about $625,000 that they agreed to be assessed for these improvements. So even though they agreed to that as part of the development agreement, the city does still need to walk through the procedural steps of the 429 process. So the first part of the council action is the council authorizing me to prepare a feasibility study that details that. So essentially, I'll be writing a report that says what I just said. And so as part of the 429 procedural process, the council does need to receive a feasibility report and actually hold a public improvement hearing. So this action tonight would set up for that to occur at the February 13th City Council meeting. So if authorized tonight, I draft a feasibility report that'll come back to you at the next council meeting, where you would accept the report and then call for a public improvement hearing to be held on March 13th. Now, in the case of this particular project, the only member of the public who will be specifically invited to the public improvement hearing will be Marco McLean. They're already aware, they've already agreed in your development agreement to the amount that is proposed to be assessed against them, but we still need to walk through the steps of that process. The way we are looking to proceed tonight, so as the council may recall, we want to time the bidding of the project to be in alignment with when Marco McLean is prepared to close on the property. So we don't want to be awarding a contract for these improvements before we know that they're prepared to close. So what you see here on the schedule here is what our tentative project schedule is based on what we understand to be Marco McLean's plan for wanting to close on the property. They're looking to start construction in April, which would have us closing in March. So tentatively, we would place the ad for bid with the intent to receive bids on March 14th, and then we would anticipate bringing that to council for award on March 27th. But staff might elect to slide that schedule as new information comes to light, but we wanted to have all the council approvals in hand so that staff could time those bids in a way that makes sense. Once we open and receive the bids, we have to act on them within 60 days. So we can't, just open the bids and hold them open for 6 months and then get around to awarding a contract. We do need to act within 60 days. So that's why we want to align the timing of that step with the Marco McLean schedule. So with that, again, I just have this slide here again in case we need it, but this is the action that we're looking for from the City Council tonight, but certainly I'd be happy to answer any questions the council might have.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Ms. Guerin. Council, questions?
I just had one quick question.
Councilmember Evansky.
At this stage, are we specifying things like usage of the streets, such as parking restrictions, is overnight, preventing overnight parking, for instance, on this, or is that something that's going to come at a later time for us to review?
Sure, Councilmember Evansky. We aren't including any of that type of signage in this bid package. That is something that we could do, but typically the Public Works Department would prefer to add that signage down the road once we have all of any questions in that regard answered. So none of that is included. The parking areas will be constructed and striped as part of this project, and certainly ADA stalls are included within the central green area as determined to be necessary. Those will all be signed, but we don't have any other additional signing in this bid package.
Okay. So will there be an opportunity for council to make comments about those features that we've taken from community residents so that we can respond to that?
Certainly, Councilmember Evansky, usually those types of matters make their way up through the city manager, and then she provides direction to us to when it is necessary to come before the city council.
Okay.
Councilmember Evansky, good? All right. Council, other questions? All right, seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve a resolution authorizing the preparation of a feasibility study, approving plans and specifications, and ordering the advertisement for bids for Downtown West Phase 1 improvements.
I have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much. Item next is 6.3, a sketch plan review for Kelzer property proposed by Summergate Homes. Presenting this evening is our consulting planner, Nathan First. Mr. First, welcome back.
Thank you very much, Mayor and members of the council. So your community development department has been busy lately. This is a sketch plat that we have reviewed, and this is on a property that we're calling the Kelzer property. Summergate is the developer that has applied for this review. So as a reminder to everyone, typically moving forward, the sketch plats will be reviewed during work sessions. Appreciate the accommodation this evening to do 2 of them. During the sketch plat process, no formal approvals are made or granted. It's really an opportunity to provide feedback to our applicant. So specific to this site, the location is an unaddressed property that's northeast of County Road 11 and Marsh Lake Road. So north of Marsh Lake Road there, and on the screen you can see sort of encircled in yellow the kind of the rough location of that property, the rough boundaries of that property, and you can see that there's a fair amount of development surrounding it. It's just over 12 acres in size. Currently the zoning is agriculture, but as the practice of the city would require a rezoning to R1, which is low density residential, and that would be underlying zoning because we're anticipating a planned unit development request as well. So that is just a little bit on the location. So the next slide here is your concept or your sketch plat. You can see a number of different things, which I'll go into more detail here. So just wanted to show you that right away. But before we get into some of the review, wanted to quickly talk about the existing conditions on the site. Current and historic use of this land is agriculture, consistent with the zoning district. There is the presence known of some wetlands on site which have been delineated by the developer. And we don't know at this point in time whether there are any significant or heritage trees on site, but that would be addressed at preliminary plat. Looking at the aerial, doesn't look like there would be too much in terms of woods on site. So looking at the city's comprehensive plan for guidance on land use, the area is guided for low density residential. On the screen, you can see an arrow pointing to that parcel. It's kind of zoomed out there. This land use calls for traditional forms of single-family housing, which are found in Victoria and most suburban communities. I'd note the density range for this future land use is 2.25 to 6 units per acre, and this development is within that threshold at 2.3 units per acre. So breaking down a little bit about the site, you're looking at just over 12 acres. There would be, most of this would be net developable, so not wetlands or other open space, so that's about 9.6 acres of developable area. The lots that are being proposed are 66 feet wide, just over 8,500 square feet. The front yard setbacks that are being proposed are 25 feet, rear yard 30 feet. Notably, setbacks from those lots that are near the county road, those would be 50 feet. And then side yards are posed at 8 feet. There would be a 6-foot standard drainage and utility easement on the side yards as well, just to note for you. One thing you can see here is that the site is shown to also have, or I should say the actual individual lots are proposed to have impervious coverage at 44%, and that's something that we'll talk about relative to this property and proposal. So here's just another table that was in the staff report there, indicating which standards will require a deviation through the planned unit development process. So this property is located within the city's shoreland overlay. There was some uncertainty at first, but we did confirm with the DNR the presence of the shoreland overlay in this area. There's a water body north of this site which puts it in that buffer. So the impacts on this particular process would be, number one, that it does impact the platting process. We have notification requirements in addition to those we usually have. The city's shoreline overlay district has an impervious surface requirement of 25%. So that'd be a maximum for residential lots of 25% impervious, and an open space requirement of 50% impervious, or sorry, open space. So that's space that's not developed and it's not within a lot. So cutting to the buffers on this site plan, there are proposed 40-foot landscape buffers just off of Marsh Lake Road, and that's consistent with the rest of the development along this corridor and the classification of this roadway in the future. In addition, there's 15 feet buffers, which are proposed to be landscaped that go along that extended Red Fox Drive. So those are consistent with your buffer standards. Buffer plantings and bermings will be required in these areas as well. A quick note on transportation and access for you. Red Fox Drive is a pretty critical connection in this area. I'll turn it over to Kara to explain a little bit more about this. And then I would also note that Catkin Way would be extended east-west. So Kara, I don't know if you have anything else to say on this particular slide.
Erin, please.
Sure. Mayor, members of the City Council, I'm going to hop over out of order slightly to this slide just to help highlight for the City Council some of the key elements of Nathan's note about Red Fox being a key connector. So Red Fox Drive is a collector road that was first constructed it was first visioned and constructed back in the early 2000s when the Lake Town development first came into reality and with construction of the schools. So we've been constructing pieces of Red Fox Drive over the years as part of the Lennar development process. What that means as a collector is that you'll note that there are no driveways on Red Fox Drive. And really, part of why we do that, you know, the council is on the receiving end of speeding complaints, often in residential neighborhoods. And as we're developing larger areas of land, if we can provide a collector road that has no driveways on it, and often will have pedestrian facilities in and around it, it helps facilitate traffic moving in and out of the neighborhood in a way where you don't have interaction with kids playing in driveways and things of that nature. So also not having driveways on these roads helps facilitate the more efficient movement of cars through these areas. So having collectors is an important part as the city develops and builds out our system. So in our South Growth area, the city council has been approving different elements of a neighborhood collector through those developments in the south. As part of the comprehensive plan, we took a look at Red Fox Drive, and we do envision that Red Fox Drive will continue as a north-south collector between Marsh Lake Road and County Road 10 as development occurs to the south. So if and when the Hunt Club would ever choose to develop, you'll start to see that extension of Red Fox Drive. So we're kind of following a layout that was set through previous approval processes, but it is a very important key connection. We've been talking for quite some time about the need for additional connection points from this whole broader area to Marsh Lake Road. Working my way from west to east, we have Lakeside Drive that's currently connected to Marsh Lake Road. Creekview Drive is intended to connect to Marsh Lake Road once this property owner develops. Then we had the Red Fox Drive connection that we were just speaking about. And then we have the Timber Terrace connection that the council has actually reviewed and authorized preliminary engineering work on completing that conjunction in connection with development of the Simon property. So the city council saw a sketch plat. It had to be about a year ago for that property. The planning commission actually saw a preliminary plat application and recommended approval of the preliminary plat. And then the applicant asked to table their application and most recently actually withdrew their application. So we've been hoping to facilitate construction of this piece of Timber Terrace in conjunction with development. And we had prioritized getting this extension completed because we had a landowner whose property was for sale. Since we've been working through that design process and waiting for the developer to move forward, the Kelzers stepped forward and listed their property for sale, which is not something we had previously anticipated. So here we are now with an opportunity to see the Red Fox connection completed. So, jumping back to Nathan's previous slide, it's the same information here. The developer, with the small size of this parcel that the Kelzers own and the extent of wetlands on the property, there isn't a lot of buildable land to produce houses. If they were to come in with a standalone application without Red Fox being something that was a priority for the city, they could develop these lots up in this area by making a local connection to the 2 roads in this area. And then same with these lots down in the southern area. Lennar has completed the construction of Catkin to the east of here. So they could connect to Catkin and connect to Marsh Lake Road and meet all of our requirements to have access to these lots. So if a project continues to move forward with the process, staff will be taking a look at the potential to cost share in completing this Red Fox connection as part of this project. And that would likely be in lieu of, backwards mouse, completing this little piece of timber terrace that would require us to get right away from the Schmeek property. So I only introduce it here just to give the council a little bit of background. This would be something we would work through in greater detail with the applicant should they move forward with a application for a preliminary plat, which is consistent what we had been working on with the Simon developer. And I see there might be questions, so I'm stopping.
Councilmember Roberts.
So I'm just curious, is there any concern, right? Marsh Lake Road is, let's just say, special. So, you know, right, like, so we've got the curve, we've got a curve, we've got some dips there. You know, with all these roads now, you know, we're talking about, you know, Red Fox, you talked about the other 2. Is there any concerns with the amount of traffic with these through roads coming on here? And have we heard anything from residents in that area concerned about it?
Ms. Guerin, please.
Sure, Councilmember Roberts. The residents who do live along Marsh Lake Road are aware of these planned connections. This information was all a part of our Marsh Lake Road Improvement Project conversation. The traffic volumes on Marsh Lake Road today are not, they're not that high compared to some of the other existing county roads around the city. When you'll start to see the traffic increase significantly on Marsh Lake Road will be when development starts to occur to the west of Victoria in our western growth area. And really to date, in the last 10 years, we haven't been getting much indication from the property owners in that area that they're looking to sell their land anytime soon for development. Now, we all know, you know, the city has no control over that, so those landowners, for whatever reason, could make the decision to sell their property to develop, and, you know, we would need to work through our process to see if we can accommodate that from an infrastructure perspective. But, you know, when the council approved improving Marsh Lake Road in its condition that it is, it was aware that these connections would be happening sooner than later. It really is, once things start to improve to the west, Marsh Lake Road remains in the county's plan and in the city's plan as a future county road that would be upgraded when it really becomes necessary based on traffic conditions. Does that very long answer your question?
Right. Council, other questions? Yeah, Councilmember Gunderson.
I'm just trying to recall our conversation around the Timber Terrace connection. What it was, Chief was here talking about response times, if I'm remembering correctly. So if we connect Red Fox then all the way down to Marsh Lake, does that help us with our response times to this area and take away the need for Timber Terrace maybe to try to be engineered prior to anything going in?
Certainly, Councilmember Gunderson, you are recalling correctly that one of the driving factors in this conversation was the fire code. So when the developer of the Simon property was coming forward, What we would require of them, because if that property develops, there would be too many lots on a dead end. So we would require them to make a connection from Catkin to Marsh Lake Road to minimize the number of lots that are on a dead end. What we weren't going to require of that developer was constructing the piece really between Catkin and existing Timber Terrace through the Schmieg property. In an ideal situation, that connection would occur when the Schmiegs opt to develop. But the chief was concerned, and the residents, quite frankly, in this area are concerned about not having a secondary connection to Marsh Lake Road. So, you know, we as a city focused on Timber Terrace because it was the shortest distance, and at least it's on a property line, so we would have been impacting two property owners. Completing Red Fox from a transportation perspective is really the better connection for the city to make, but the Kelzers weren't interested in developing at that time, and we weren't gonna, you know, require them to agree to an easement through the middle of their farmland to make our road connection. You know, the council wouldn't be supportive of that. So that's kind of where we are. But with Kelzer's selling for development, it creates an opportunity to complete that connection without potentially having to impact the Schmiegs and their farming operation.
And at some point, though, we are still planning to make that Timber Terrace connection, correct, to Marsh Lake Road?
Correct. So if the Simon property were to develop, I think we'd be, if Catkin is already through, then we might be willing to consider allowing a temporary cul-de-sac to wait to complete that connection until the Schmiegs, if and when they were to sell their property for development. It makes that construction a little easier and a little less impactful to them from a farming operation if we wait to make that connection. And, you know, with Catkin going through, that gives another route for folks to get out of here to take some of the pressure off the intersection of Hackmore and 11.
All right, council, other questions, comments?
So just to clarify,
Councilmember Mansky.
if I think I hear what I'm saying, is we're talking about a swap between the funds that we would spend on Timber Terrace and plow that into Red Fox. Is that a correct assessment?
That is absolutely correct.
So what I am reticent about is at some point in time, somebody coming back and saying, you were willing to write a check for Timber Terrace, where are you now? And how do we say we're not willing to do that because we don't want to pay for two access points when there was an opportunity for us to pay for one?
So, Councilmember Ivansky, you know, certainly every planned unit development should be reviewed under which the proposal under which it comes in. So, you know, we're talking about a shoreland development with 50% open space. This is an opportunity, I think, to complete one of the council's goals. From a Timber Terrace perspective, driveways are not restricted on Timber Terrace, so we would anticipate that a developer of the Schmieg property would be building houses through that gap section of Timber Terrace that we were looking to have to construct. And typically developers pay without really any sort of challenge for the infrastructure that's directly serving their lots. So we aren't anticipating that that would be a challenge. The only reason why the city was contemplating funding it was to accelerate it ahead of the development schedule without burdening the Schmiegs with a large special assessment that, you know, would become a burden to their property.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
All right.
The last slide before I hand it back to Nathan is just to note that utilities, sanitary sewer and water are extended to the property boundary and are prepared to be connected to facilitate the creation of these lots. We would connect the water main through to create a loop system, which we look to do whenever we have that opportunity. And with that.
All right, we're back to Mr. First.
Great, thank you again, Mayor, to the council. So the transportation connections would also open up the opportunity to ensure that the trail corridor along Red Fox Drive is extended, and so that is what the developer is proposing to do at the request of staff. In addition, the sidewalk, which is north currently of Catkin Way in the Laketown development, would be continued all the way to the western extent of Gatkin Way through this development. So continuing that connectivity, both trails and sidewalks that are in the area. One thing I talked about in the staff report was parkland dedication. And so we're always in developments looking, is this an opportunity area or a search area for parks? The comprehensive plan does include this as within a general search area, but noted by staff is that, you know, this is kind of in the top end of that search area. This site is proposed to have a trail connection that leads right to community facilities that, you know, have parks with pretty good access to this proposed neighborhood. So therefore would recommend a cash in lieu should this move forward, and really focus the eyes towards, for parkland, at least neighborhood parks, towards the areas south of Marsh Lake Road should those areas develop for parks. So we did have a neighborhood meeting and we did not have many attendees. I think we had enough, you could count them all in one hand. There were a couple different questions though. One of them was regarding the access location to, for this property to Marsh Lake Road, so that where that connector would meet that county road, and then also just the nature of the development, what's being proposed here. We didn't hear necessarily many other concerns from members of the community. We also did have obviously the Planning Commission reviewed this item and had a few more questions in their conversation. One of the first questions was about the Minnesota DNR and any comments they might have on, because we're in a shoreline overlay, how does that impact, this process? I would tell you that the city obviously has the land use control here and the ability to approve what's being proposed through this planned unit development. Notably, there's two really main things in the shoreland on this one again. It's the impervious surface and it's the open space in the development. And so on the impervious surface side of things, the developer has done a calculation and shown that on the aggregate, this development would come in at about 25% impervious. So if the city's looking for a rationale as to why it should approve this, part of that might be that on the whole it does meet the intent of the ordinance, and then the other part is that, you know, we're really creating some critical connections for transportation and other things. On the open space side of things, it's the same kind of rationale. You're looking at about 30% open space in this development on both sides of Red Fox Drive, the stormwater ponding area and the wetlands that would remain intact. So those were the main questions. So staff are generally supportive of this, given all the assessment we've kind of explained to you. No actions required tonight, and really from a planning perspective, what makes this a successful conversation is kind of indicating to the developer, would you support that their proposed lot standards through the PUD and their proposed deviations from those shoreland requirements? And so that's what I have formally prepared for you as staff. I would note that we do have a representative from Summergate here that's able to help answer questions that you might have for him. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. First. Council, questions?
I just want to go back to Kara.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Councilmember Gunderson.
Did we have, it's very minor, about the response times. Does it improve our response times? And did we take response times from our new location or proposed new location for this? I'm just curious how it helps. I mean, I know it helps. I just want to know if anybody said it.
Councilmember Gunderson, I'm trying to look back through my brain and I don't recall the fire chief providing us specific information, so that's certainly something we can ask that we could bring back with the planning commission or with a preliminary plat application.
Even if when I think he does it once or twice a year, provides us response times to calls and things, whatever that might get added, just add that to the presentation to show how that changes.
Okay. Council, other questions, comments for the developer?
I'll make some comments.
Councilmember Ivansky, please.
And I have one can debate whether it's the benefit of having seen this as a planning commission member and now seeing it the second time as a council member. I had reservations about this development. The compromise that we're going to take on the impervious surface is an issue. I have a problem with a wetland fill being on lot number 1 and plunking a house on it with somebody's to-be largest investment that they're going to make probably in their life to have it on fill that is questionable. I would like to see something along the lines of maybe we discard the idea of a fee in lieu for park dedication and maybe use that lot to create a park for this area. I don't think that going across Marsh Lake Road to get to a park is palatable for people with young children and having to move across a busy road. And frankly, it's going to take a long time to get there. This puts that need of this new community closer in reach to current day. I also have reservations about Red Fox and the longer term implications of what that road might happen to that road on the being placed over fill of a wetland. And if it subsequently settles, like the settling that we have on Highway 5, where we're now contemplating redoing the roundabout, and we know that there's challenges there. I just don't want us to get involved in this in part two. So, and then given that we're in a shoreline district, I think we need to be extra sensitive to the impervious surfaces, because the Charles Cudd development that's west of this is also sopping up impervious surface with those homes as well. So taking those concerns away and trying to solve for these to bring us a better project is where I'm weighing in at this point.
Great comments, thank you. Anything else, council? I would love to see bigger setbacks, actually. I know we've kind of been down this path a lot, and it seems like we keep continuing to shrink those setbacks, and I just don't know that that's in the best interest of our community, and I think people move to Victoria and expect to have a little bit more space. So that's my comments around setbacks.
Totally agree.
Mayor, if I could reflect your sentiment as well, I mean, some of the things that attract people to this community is that their lot is a little bit fuller, has a little bit more space. And anecdotally, I'll tell you that the Savannah Valley neighborhood where I live has larger setbacks than this. And one of my neighbors was having something delivered and encroached on the other neighbor's property in the manner of doing it. And now they have to have a discussion as to who's going to take care of the damage that was done while your item was delivered. So with fuller setbacks, we tamp down that. Other members of the Planning Commission have also opined on the nature of the tighter setbacks, at least side yard, creating drainage problems and then having those dried out. So I'm fully on board with your decision on that. And again, the averaging away a impervious surface really means that one guy has the severest problem and everybody else on balance is okay. I don't think that that's what we want to do for our residents. Again, making the largest investments that they'll probably make in their lifetimes.
Good. Other comments? Yeah,
Mayor,
Mr. First,
Council,
please.
apologies to interject. I just wanted to make a couple quick points of clarification based on some conversation with the Planning Commission. I would note to you that the applicant did revise their site plan from what you see now. It was actually, there were a little bit tighter setbacks, and part of the conversation at the Planning Commission was absolutely the side yard setbacks that were previously, I think, 6 feet or 5 feet, and now they've become 8 feet wide. The question was asked at the last Planning Commission meeting, how does this relate to the surrounding developments which the city approved through the PUD process? I would note to you that all of the setbacks are the same as the Lake Town development proposed here, as they're the same as those that were proposed by Lennar. The one minor difference is the minimum lot width in this development is proposed at 66 feet wide. The lots directly to the east on Catkin are 70, so that's a 4-foot difference. But I just wanted to make those points of clarification just for your discussion this evening. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. My comments stand, though. I think we can do better. All right, anything else, council? We aren't taking any action on this item this evening, so if there's no further comments for the developer, I think we are ready to move on. All right. We're moving on to reports and emerging issues. Attorney Voice, you're up first. Anything from your office for us?
Mayor and Council, always happy to answer questions, but no, I have nothing that I need to tell you tonight.
All right, thank you. Ms. Hardy, anything from staff?
Nothing from staff, Madam Mayor.
Members of the council, anything that you would like to bring to the body this evening?
I just want to bring one quick item to, it's not really an item. When Councilmember Reef and I were sworn in last week, I don't think we got the opportunity, nor took it because of the gravity of our firefighters and how much they've served this community and the awards given out. It seemed a little bit piling on, but I wanted to thank the residents of Victoria for electing Councilmember Reef and myself to lead the city in this next direction. I appreciate the confidence and the desire to choose us as their leaders. And I just want to express my appreciation and also express that they put me with a fine group of people to lead this city forward. So I'm humbled by that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well said, and I'll second that. Thank you for bringing that up, Greg, and look forward to serving the community of Victoria and working with all of you. So thank you.
Terrific, thank you. Anything else from council? With that, there are no more items to come before the body this evening, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion, I'll take a second.
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries, we stand adjourned.